Hey everybody, welcome back to Maskless Slasher. We are going to do our year-end 2024 review, and we're not doing a whole countdown or any of that top five. We're not doing that because that's a lot.
Yeah.
But we each chose a movie that stood out the most for us that actually did come out this year, not just ones that we were late to the party on.
We all know there are lots of those.
Yeah, there's always some of those.
I will say this was a really, really tough choice to make for me. There were several outstanding movies this year. There were a couple turkeys as well, but there were many outstanding movies to choose from this year. I thought it was a great year for horror, at least from what we saw. Again, we can't watch every single movie that comes out. There's still several we still need to see at this point that I would like to. But the outstanding horror movie for me this year was Alien Romulus. I am a long-suffering fan of the Alien franchise. In my opinion, there has not been a good Alien movie since Aliens in 1986. When I saw those movies, those first two movies as a kid, it just really captured my imagination. The design of the xenomorph, I've just immediately was fascinated by, and have always been fascinated with it for the whole rest of my life, And it was just such a pleasure to have a good Alien movie again. This was directed by Fede Alvarez, who also directed the reboot or remake or reimagining, whatever you want to call it, of Evil Dead from a couple years back, which I was not a fan of. But he also did Texas Chainsaw for Netflix, which I was a fan of.
That was a good one.
So it was kind of a crapshoot whether or not I was going to like this. I was like, it could go either way because I liked one of his big horror movies and didn't like the other one. So but I was just blown away by how good this was. It does pay homage to the first two movies. It's actually set in between Alien and Aliens, but it also introduces some new ideas. There are even some callbacks to Prometheus and Alien Covenant, which I was not a fan of, but you got to acknowledge Ridley Scott a little more, I guess. So threw those in there. But overall, I thought this was a great movie. I'm not going to say a ton about the plot, but I'll just say it revolves around a group of colonists that are stuck on a shitty planet. They're trying to get off that planet, and they discover a derelict space station that they believe they can use the cryopods from to get off this planet and go to whatever the next habitable planet might be. That's a little better situation for them. Of course, they soon run afoul of the xenomorphs, and it goes on from there. My only gripes about this movie, I think, were some of the CGI wasn't super convincing, but most of the effects were practical, which I was very pleased with. And again, it was somewhat derivative of the first two films, but, I'd rather it keep with the first two films and be a good movie than try to go into totally new territory and not be good.
Yeah.
I will say, I hope that in the future, if they do continue to make Alien movies, that we will see some where they can show that they can tell different kinds of stories with the xenomorph, kind of like what we've seen with Predator, where it's set in different eras and things like that. So other than that, though, this was my favorite film of the year. Just so happy to have another Alien movie that I can enjoy.
And I have to say, I'm not a huge science fiction fan. I never have been, especially Alien. The original, it is great. I will give you that. But these movies make me claustrophobic, like you would not believe. It terrifies me, even going to space. Any of that just scares the shit out of me. And maybe it's because of, what was it, the Challenger exploding when we were kids.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And there being a school teacher named Krista who died on it.
That's some generational trauma right there, I think.
Watched it happen in the classroom.
Yeah.
But I didn't sit down and watch this movie with Josh. But at one point I was probably doing editing or something where I was sitting on the couch. And so I watched parts of it. And I have to say the pieces and parts that I did see, I actually did like them. I think that the fact that they reused the aliens, they still brought it back. Obviously, they're going to bring them back, but they brought them back in a different way, in my opinion. And it wasn't as claustrophobic for some reason. I don't know if maybe it's just the different shots that they use in this.
Yeah.
I felt like in the original Alien, it was just very closed in small spaces. And this, had the big gaping areas and that helped and whatever. But I think they did a really good job with this particular one from what I saw. I really can't say, I recommend this because I didn't see enough of it. But for what it was, if Josh put it on again, I probably would watch it.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's something.
Yeah, that's a glowing recommendation coming from her.
Yeah. I think the only alien science fiction-y type movie that I have ever really liked was The Abyss.
Oh, yeah.
Which is shocking because I'm terrified of deep water. and claustrophobia.
I was going to say, that one's claustrophobic.
Yeah, and that is, but for some reason that one always did well with me.
Maybe it's because the aliens are more benevolent.
I think so. I think that's what it is. It was just a good movie. But anyway, yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Okay.
Very
So,
cool.
and a lot of people, won't necessarily think that this movie is considered horror, but it is. It is categorized
Yeah, I've always
under
considered it
science
science fiction / horror. Yeah.
Yeah. People are getting killed.
Yeah, there's gooey, gross monsters.
Gooey, gross monsters. Always that.
That's right.
Yeah. And the fact that they were designed by H.R. Geiger.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, his artwork. Holy shit.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think if somebody else was just to make some stupid alien.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that creature design makes all the difference for me. Like I said, that's what captured my imagination to begin with these movies. And so I thankfully think that's a big part of it for sure.
Absolutely. The movie that I chose, it may be surprising to some folks, and I think it might be because I don't know that a lot of people talked about this movie or anything, and I thought it really deserved more credit. We haven't fully covered it yet, and I do intend to do so. I think it's somewhere on the schedule in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
But in any case, this will at least hopefully pique your interest and make you go watch it for now. But that movie is immaculate. I have always liked, ever since seeing The Exorcist, I have always liked movies, horror movies that are based around religion. Irony of it is that I'm not religious. And so I think it doesn't have a scare factor for me necessarily. I mean, when I was a kid, yes.
Yeah.
But now it's not a scare factor. It's a gross factor.
Yeah.
And because it does prey on people's, anything that is going to threaten a religion is very terrifying to folks who are in fact religious. So I think that's why these movies continue to be made. And I didn't have high expectations of this movie. It was kind of just like, let's see what happens.
Right.
A lot of times we'll do that. We'll just be like, if it sucks, we'll turn it off.
Yeah.
And I think this was on Hulu, which I was surprised at because Hulu is part of Disney now.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give away the whole movie because I really think people should see this. But, after you've watched The Exorcist, The Omen, and then there was also, what was the other one this year? The First Omen, which The First Omen, by the way, was really good too.
Actually, surprisingly good movie.
Yeah, I thought it was going to just be another stupid thing. Yeah. But anyway, so Immaculate, she is a young, intern nun.
Yeah, she's a nun in training, I guess.
Exactly.
I don't know what they're called. An initiative? I don't know what they're called.
Novice.
I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, I don't know either. But either way, when she was a child, she experienced a quote-unquote miracle. And from then on, she decided that this is what she wanted to do. And so she moves from the United States to Italy, for the real shit.
Yeah.
You gotta go to Italy if you're going to be like
OG.
Yeah, I mean, you really want to suffer. This is the place to go to. Pasta and suffering.
Yep.
So, but yeah, she moves there and she starts to uncover things that are going awry. Things are going wrong in the convent, and it is disturbing. The imagery of it, the acting. This is the main character. Is played by Sydney Sweeney, and so that was another one I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, because she's kind of everywhere.
Exactly.
So
she's not really known for spooky movies, but I have to say, I'm not going to give anything away because I really think people should go and check this out. But this movie actually left me shocked to where for the next couple of days, I wouldn't shut up about it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I was just like, holy shit. And this is not a movie I would recommend to somebody who is super duper religious.
Oh no, God no.
Woo! This is a rough one. It just, like I said, I don't want to give a lot away, but it's shocking as shit.
Yeah, I would say that, without giving anything away, that it goes in directions that are unexpected.
Yes.
And I would also say it goes places that I was not expecting. There was definitely scenes where I was like, wow, I can't believe they went there.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and I thought it was just going to be another Omen or another, any of those other stupid movies that are out, like The Nun.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was just going to be another nun horror movie.
Yeah, there has been a lot of nun horror lately.
Too much.
Too much, but this one's actually worth checking out.
Yeah, this one definitely goes a different path from the regular ones. So that's why I think you should check it out. I did notice that it had only a $9 million budget, but it made something like $35 million in the box office. And I'm like, so that says something.
Yeah.
And if I had realized how good it was going to be, I would have seen it in the theater.
Yeah, and I will say that, there's so many horror movies nowadays especially that dive into religion, And is it kind of played out? Yeah, probably. But this one, as I said earlier, takes it in some interesting directions. And I still think that it's especially having grown up in Catholic school, I still think it's a great jumping off point for as far as something to play with. Because when you're a kid and you go into a Catholic church, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just all this imagery hitting you over the face, and so I was really impressed with this movie, actually, I have to say, as a Catholic school survivor and everything else, I was impressed with it.
Well, see, and I went to Christian school as a child, and thankfully didn't have to stay forever like Josh did. But my stepmother is Portuguese, so automatically Catholic, and so I have been to their church many times.
Yeah, the 5 balloons.
That's what we call it, is the 5 balloons. It's called the 5 wounds. Josh's mom misheard me say it one day, and she called it the 5 balloons. It is now forever the 5 balloons. I do recommend checking this one out for sure.
Me too.
Yes. Great movies. And like I said, I will cover it in full.
Yeah.
With spoilers and the whole thing
we'll
later
do a deep
on.
dive.
Deep dive, yeah. And probably talk about some other of the nun horror movies.
Yeah.
Might as well compare some.
Right, yeah.
There are some honorable mentions in this because we did watch, I listed all the movies. We did watch a decent amount of new movies. We didn't get to see movies that I want to still, like The Substance or Heretic. Both of those, I'm really bummed that I haven't seen them yet. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Went to the Netherlands. Yeah. We went to Iowa. Things have been happening.
Yeah. We've got lives outside of horror movies. We do the best we can.
Exactly.
But,
so it's, we get what we get.
Exactly.
I think both Josh and I, on this particular one, we are in agreement. But VHS Beyond. Now, the VHS series, obviously, as you know, it's found footage. And I think there's, 4 or 5 of them now?
At least, yeah. I've lost track of how many there are.
Yeah. And there's some that are complete duds.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the original and this one are the best out of the entire series. It's an anthology, so there's all these different stories, whatever, that they go through. They're not all necessarily connected and blah, blah, blah. But one in particular is the Alien one. And like I said, I'm not a huge science fiction fan. But this particular little splurge, I think is maybe a half hour, if that. Yeah. This could have been a whole movie, and it should have been a whole movie. It was so freaking weird.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm not even on drugs right now.
Yeah.
What am I watching? It was so crazy. And I mean, I was still left stunned by it, just like Immaculate, but not as much as Immaculate.
Right.
And I think that's why it didn't make it to number 1. I do like found footage movies. We've discussed them. There's a whole video about them. But not enough to make it to my top for this year. But it's definitely in the top 5, I would say.
Yeah.
And which is surprising because some of the VHS movies are really annoying.
Yeah.
That one with the band.
Oh, yeah, that one was terrible.
Oh,
I can't remember which one that is even, but
hottest of hot garbage.
I mean, I've seen all the VHS movies at this point. They're all anthologies. They're hit and miss. Some I'd say the first one is very good front to back. The second one pretty good as well. After that, it gets a little more mixed. But this one I thought was really good. And yeah, I agree with you that the Alien story definitely could be expanded into a full movie. Just because it was such a weird take on that whole situation and very different than anything that at least I can think of that I've seen. Maybe a little bit fire in the sky in there, but other than that, pretty cool take on it. And yeah, I mean, if they can keep going on an upswing, I hope that they continue, because I think it gives directors, that aren't as well known a chance to kind of get more exposure. I think we talked about when we talked a little bit about the first one in our found footage episode, how some of those directors have gone on to direct huge movies. So I think it's really cool. And as long as they can keep it innovative and interesting, I'm all for them just continuing to make them, as long as they continue on this upward trajectory.
Now for the worst. Now, obviously, this is just our opinion.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. We don't care.
Yeah.
But out of these movies that we have seen this year, there were some duds, some definite duds. But I think the one that took the cake for me, and I did do an on my own video for this because I watched it when we were on an airplane, and I'll tell you that story here in a minute. But that movie is The Deliverance. When I found out that they were going to do a movie about this particular story, that it is based on a supposed true story of a family. It was a family that lives in poverty, and they get possessed by demons or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the thing that made this story so popular was because Zach Baggins, who's irritating as shit. But if you ever watched Ghost Adventures or gone to the Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, which you absolutely should, there actually is some artifacts from this particular house, from the actual house from this. So, and he did a documentary just about this particular story.
Right.
And it is crazy. It is an absolutely banana story, and it has so much evidence, real evidence from multiple sources written down, social workers, police officers, all these credible people. So the story could have been really good. It wasn't. This movie sucked. It sucked the life out of me. And I was just so mad because this goes along with my whole thing where when people make a movie based on a true crime story, every time it sucks ass.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they go and do, some crazy adaptation of it, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, taking the Ed Gein story, whatever.
Right.
But when they just go, straight from the real story to this, every time they fuck it up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, because the story is there.
Yeah, you just have to make it good.
Yeah. I feel like there's more chances to fuck something up when you're doing an inspired by, situation. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they obviously took the little sliver of an idea from Ed Gein and then totally went off on their own thing, and it turned out great.
Yeah.
But, I feel like if you go verbatim what the story is right there. You don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
So it's just crazy to me that you get these ones that are so close, trying to be so close to what actually happened, and they're terrible.
Yeah.
You get these ones that are inspired by, and maybe it's just because people get to let their imagination run wild. But for me, I feel like when you let your imagination run wild, there's more room for error. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? So it's crazy to me that this wasn't good.
It's so disappointing because we've gone to that museum twice. We've seen this particular room where they have the artifacts, and it's stuff from the basement of the house because the house has been demolished since. And so I was just like, God, it'd be so cool if they did a movie about this. And then somebody did, and they just fucked it all up. So, disappointing. Now, the story about this, so we were watching this on the airplane. We were coming back from Iowa. When I was at the end of this movie and it was at the credits, I look at the reflection in it, and there is a woman that was sitting behind me who I think was Amish or something along those lines, who was watching the movie.
I was watching Dream Scenario. She might have been a little slightly better off.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm always very conscious of other people on planes, sitting next to me or whatever. I will turn my screen or whatever if I have to, because I'm just polite like that.
I'm not. I watched Texas Chainsaw on a laptop once.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. It's the worst you've seen.
My worst of the year was Night Swim.
Oh, God.
This is a movie about nothing. I couldn't even tell you anymore what the plot points are of this movie because nothing happens in this movie.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the concept was there. I don't think I'm outing you because I'm certain that you've talked about this in other videos, but you are deathly afraid of deep water and deep swimming pools. That is a great concept right there to play with.
Yes.
And they totally squandered it.
Yeah.
Just completely squandered it. Nothing happens in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, nothing absolutely happens. It's just like bro falls in the pool because I don't know, he gave them life or something.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah, and he gets possessed or whatever, but I don't think he even kills anybody, right?
I think
he
so.
just menaces his family.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Whoop-de-doo.
Oh.
I have to say that when What's-Her-Bucket in Stranger Things went into the pool, went to the down under or underside
down,
or the upside, whatever it's called, that was more scary
by
than
far.
this.
Oh, yeah.
The swimming pool in Poltergeist, scarier.
Oh, yeah.
The swimming pool in It Follows, that was scary.
Yeah.
Even in, what was that stupid movie in the 90s, Swim Fan or whatever it was like based off of an AOL screen name or something dumb. That was a scarier pool than this was. And so, Josh is right. I'm absolutely terrified of deep water and, deep swimming pools. It's because I almost drowned when I was a kid. So, it's a pretty big deal. So, they had the story there for them. They just made it dumb.
Yeah.
They just made, and we're not the only ones that feel this way because a lot of people have made horrible comments about this movie, far worse than what we have said.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
It's a sucky movie. I'm total agreement with this one.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah. So we want to know, what was your favorite movie this year? What was your least favorite movie?
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
Any sleeper hits that we have not seen, please recommend because they're like, as we've said, we're always late to the party on things a lot of the time. So if there's something we didn't talk about or didn't see or something you feel that is underrated or people didn't know about, please let us know because we'll watch it and we'll probably do a video on it.
With this being the end of the year, this has been a roller coaster of a year for us. So, personally and everything. But we've continued to make these videos and try our hardest. I have to say I'm pretty proud of myself of learning the program, because Josh started editing these and I took over it, and then I learned other programs to try to make things better. And so I'm pretty proud of what I have accomplished this year.
Oh, yeah.
And I do hope that it's appreciated by folks, and I do hope that we will continue to improve our quality of things. We just ask that you continue to support us and share and like and all those things, and do that for your other your other YouTube channels as well.
Yeah.
It definitely helps keep the channel going and keeping the momentum, because we want to do it because people want to see it.
Yeah.
We do it for ourselves as well, of course.
Right.
But that was the original plan, was to make a channel and have it based on, you know, other regular people. And there are a few return viewers that we really appreciate. They always comment, you know who you are. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for supporting us throughout these times, you know, throughout this whole year. It really makes a big difference to us. So have a safe and happy New Year's Eve, and don't drink and drive. And stay home and be boring like us. So anyway, we'll see you in the next year.
Yep.
Bye.